This is Pops Throwback Thursday. No surprise what I'm doing here. Just did a rewatch just for fun and was like, let me just talk through again why this was such a big deal because I don't know if you didn't live through it why Batman 89 was such a big deal because you watch it and it's like there's a couple of like the visual effects are a little you can tell, right? There's some continuity errors, especially with like when Joker's defacing paintings, things like that. There's elements I think that just work so perfectly, but more than that, the film worked because of what it did beyond just the scope of the film, right? It become a merchandising phenomenon. Everyone wanted Batman stuff. So Batman stuff become crazy. So we had obviously all the stuff from the movie, whether it be toys, cards, think shirts, stuff like that. But more importantly, if you weren't into comic books, it made people interested in the industry. So yes, there had been Dark Knight Returns and Killing Joke and the darker, edgier stuff for adults, and the film points to that. Now, I don't know that I think the film is as much of an adaptation of that as it's in that same vein of a darker, more adult sort of feel. And it is it's just funny to think about because I remember whenever Michael Keaton was cast, everyone was freaking out. Like it was like this is dude was known for being Mr. Mom, being a comedian, being that kind of actor, and he's going to play, Batman. And I remember Tim Burton saying, it's in the eyes. It's in those eyes. And the Bruce Wayne, the mental disorder, all of that was there. This film played where I was in Tampa at the mall. So it wasn't at like every single theater everywhere like it would be now. The line would be out the door. It was nuts trying to get tickets and trying to get to see this movie, which I watched. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I watched it at theater. I know I watched it several times. I did not count. Don't remember a count anyway. And prior to this, Batman was really, the 1966 version, the campy Adam West version. And then it has its place. It has its nostalgia love for me. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I don't like it. I do. I love it. But this was different. Nicholson truly kills it, of course. Uh, the look, the feel, the Prince soundtrack, the music was a big deal. The Bat Dance was a song on the radio. All of those things kind of work, right? I think that it is sort of like this visionary film that we don't necessarily want to apply to something like this. That it just that darker and more about like psychological stuff rather than just like a guy who puts on a costume and beats people up. I think all of that was great. I think all the performances are great. Even Kim Basinger doesn't get credit for, she is a damsel in distress, but she doesn't come across as being like this hokey weakling that some people try to describe them as. I thought it was good. So um it's one of those things where I'm not sure how much we get the superhero genre to take off or the comic book phenomenon of the 90s to take off hadn't been for this film because that literally was my gateway drug where things become like yeah it's a thing I like it to this is part of my thing, this is me being a thing. So I thought we would do that, and then I thought, well, let's go a step further and try to dive into this a little bit. So let me pull this back and go to the beginning and try to go through the trailer. This is the original theatrical. I know there's a recut. I know there's different versions. No, OG baby. This is what we saw in theaters. We saw this Batmobile roaring, this jet engine on this car that has like wings on it. A toy I still own, by the way. Chasing down older model vehicles. So you're like, wait, it's not set in our time. Like it was such a smart choice to choose something that could be an escape, right? Um, you see Keaton being suave. You see Kim Basinger. You see the grappling gun. Him doing crazy cool things. Then you have a little bit of like the crime lord stuff. Oh, Jack Palance. Yeah, so good. Setting up Nicholson, of course. The Joker card comes into play, and it's like this image
Hold on a second.
of him in that factory is such a big deal. You know, they retell the origin story and they kind of go through, what are you? The Batman. I'm Batman. Was so big. It's still so big. I love doing the Batman thing. I teach it to my grandson. He's like 2 years old, and you ask him who Batman, and he goes, "I'm Batman." Um, yeah, this was some of the shots. See, they just did such a good job of capturing, like, using the cape as, like, a diversion and a weapon and all of that. I don't even think they scratched the surface, right? But it at least starts the ball rolling. Yes, I know they're gonna copyright all this nonsense. I got it. I know they are. Here, let's put the overlay back on. There we go. Let's see what we got. This is a logo. No, this is Jack. And just the dialogue that Jack gets, this town needs an enema, where do they get a load of me? Where does he get these wonderful toys? There's just so many moments in this film that hit all the beats that you needed to hit to be a blockbuster, right? I didn't feel on the rewatch that I lost anything. It didn't feel dated. The love story is a love story, but that's not what you're into this for. And I know some of the lines are kind of ruined in a way, but they weren't. And definitely not when you watched it. You felt like you got your money's worth, man. I want to see this again. Keaton was on the cover of Rolling Stone. Everyone was talking about, with Prince and purple was a thing. It was just like, and then it was the comic book boom. Like this was like, well, I remember shops. I mean, I was reading comic. I've beat the drum about how this maybe got buy comic books, but uh, the X-Men Marvel stuff came into play. Like, well, if you like this, have you read Spider-Man or X-Men? Really? So for like a noob, that was kind of the thing. Like, well, people might know what Hulk or Spider-Man. X-Men really wasn't. It was really, really an insider baseball thing at that point, and they're trying. And when you would talk to comic book people, they would recommend those big story arcs that we talk about, right? Day of Future Past, Phoenix Saga, those kinds of things. We those are recommends, but it still was an insider thing, and that kind of. But and then it's like the passing of the baton becomes this with that. Because if you go to Spider-Man, you're seeing McFarlane Spider-Man, the introduction of Venom, you're seeing all of this stuff right there. And then, of course, that leads into the Spider-Man series, the X-Men series, the creation of Image, and then of course the Batman animated series, and then the X-Men animated series. So it's this explosion that's happening with like a prelude of those comics, and then this is like the match that starts the fire. That's probably the best way to explain this film, and the enjoyment is still there. I don't know, for those of you who may not have seen it, I would love to get your first watch I would love to see first watch reactions of a movie like this. I would love to I hope I get that chance with my grandkids that we can watch the Batman movie. I don't know. That's interesting. I'm not sure they're old enough to get it, but we'll see. So anyway, that's my take on it. Hopefully you're having a great time doing these. I'm loving it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Pops.